So the last thing we're going to talk about with slope-intercept form is how we use it to graph. It is very easy to graph using slope-intercept form. That's why it's the most preferred way of graphing. So in order to graph in slope-intercept form, we're going to use the two things we know from the equation. We know the y-intercept, which is a point where the graph crosses the y-axis, and we know the slope, which we can always count by counting the rise and then the run, that we can get from one point to another. So we're going to plot the y-intercept first. Once we plot the y-intercept, we are then going to use the slope to find more points by counting the rise and the run. So look at the first example, y equals 2x minus 3. If you remember the equation, you remember that the b is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is -3. It's a minus 3. So I'm going to go on the y-axis and I'm going to go down to -3. And I'm going to put a point because the line's going to cross through that point because it's a point that's on the y-intercept. Now the slope is the m, or the number that's in front of the x. But if you look in front of the x, all that you see there is a 2, but it has to be a rise and a run. The top is the rise. Since there's no bottom number, no denominator, a fraction can be made out of 2 by writing it over 1. So this is the rise, and this is the run. Now, if you look at the 2 is not a -2. So the slope is a positive slope, which means that when I'm done, the line's going to rise up in some way. So in order to make it rise up, I'm going to have to go up 2 and to the right 1. And then I'm going to keep doing that. Oh, that was a bad point. Hang on. Up 2 and to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1. And then I can continue the pattern, but if I do it this way, it's going to come down 2 and to the left 1. But once you have enough points there, you can go ahead and graph the line through those points. So that gives you a line, and it's very quick and very easy. It just is a matter of plotting points and counting. So the second example, again, we're looking at the b first. The b is +5. So that means that on the y-axis, I'm going to go to +5 or +5, which is 5 up. And then I'm going to count the rise and the run. And this one is in fraction form. So the rise is 5 and the run is 2. But you see the negative right here? That negative means that the slope slants down. So I'm going to go down 5 and to the right 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Because that's the only way for my line. If I went down and to the left, it would slant up. Because if I went this way, the line would rise. I don't want it to rise, I want it to fall. And then I'm going to go down 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 2. And then once you have as many points as you can fit on the graph, then you're going to be able to draw on your line again through those points. So that's how you graph in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's go back to standard form. Remember standard form? Standard form was the first one we did. I'm going to go back to that. And we left method 2 blank because method 2 tells us to convert to slope-intercept form, and we hadn't learned slope-intercept form yet. But now we know how to do it. So we're going to convert to slope-intercept form. I want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to add the 2x to put it on the other side. And I have 5y equals, and I'm going to put the x term first so it looks like mx plus b. And then I'm going to divide by 5. But remember, when I divide, I have to divide both terms by 5. So I'm going to get this equation. Y equals 2/5 x, and then -10 divided by 5 is -2. So there is my slope-intercept form. This is my b. So I'm going to go on the y-axis. I'm going to go down to -2, and I'm going to plot a point at -2. Once I do that, it's just a matter of counting the rise and the run. Now look at the slope, the rise, and the run. The slope is not negative, it's positive, so it's going to rise up. So I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you're not going to be able to make another point going up 2 into the right 5, but you can make one going down 2 into the left 5. But the pattern is the line still has to look like it's rising up. So once I do that, I can plot my line, and I'm already finished. To me, standard form, when something's in standard form, I still think it's easier to convert to slope-intercept. Because if you try to do the x and y intercepts, I think that's a lot of more work. But that's up to you. If you like that method, you can use that method. But there are two methods from graphing a line that's in standard form. You can graph the x and y intercepts and leave it in standard form, or you can convert to slope-intercept and plot the y-intercept and count the rise and the run. So those are the three forms of linear equations: standard form, point-slope form, and slope-intercept form. Now we're going to move on. We're still going to be talking about linear equations, but we're going to talk specifically about linear equations that don't have an x and a y and what kind of lines those represent.